everyone, my name is Chloe, and today I'm here to do the Summer Lovin' book tag, and this was created by Bookables, Heather from Bookables. If you guys don't follow her, I'm sure you do because she's a big booktuber, and she's just like the best thing ever. I love her, and she is all about the seasonal tags, so she created this one this year just as a fun summer tag, something that is new that she hasn't done before, and I love it. So let's just get into the books. So I tried to do, it's 10 questions, and I tried to do them all from books that I have read within the last year. So that means most of them, well, I'm going to put in pictures of all of them because I have not been reading off my shelves that much this year. So most of them I don't own or have. So let's just get into it. The first one is Sand in Your Toes, a book that's perfect to read on the beach. So I'm going to say Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. So this is one I just read recently, and this is about a couple of kids. Well, it's about this girl. She went to this lake house every summer with her family, and next door there were these two boys that became their friends, and one of them she kind of started a relationship with. Now that it was like they became friends at like 13, and then as they were older and teenagers they became more than friends, and it was like definitely like a first love, but like a one true pairing. Like they were just meant to be together, and something happens where it doesn't work out, and now it's like 12 years later, and the brother calls and is like, hey, our mom died and I think you should come back for the funeral. So she's like, okay. So she goes back and she's confronted with her first love and like the town and the beachiness, and it's a lake. So, I mean, it doesn't really say if it's an ocean beach or a lake beach, but you really get those summer vibes and the summertime of like, because you get then and now timeline. So you get when they were growing up. And I was also so like invested in this book, like emotionally invested, and it just went by so quick. It is definitely one that you can just lose yourself in on the beach and embrace the summer vibes and feel all the things. So next is Summer Thunderstorm, a book that truly spooked you. So this is the one book that I did not read this year, like within the past year, because I don't like, I love thrillers, but I don't really read like horror or anything that would like truly scare me. Actually, I have two answers. I only wrote down one, but I have two. So the first is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. So this is a true crime book about this family from Holcomb, Kansas that was all killed in their house at night. And Holcomb, I don't know where it is or anything, but it's a very rural area. This is the middle of nowhere, etc. However, I live in Kansas, and I just feel like it hit too close to home. It freaked me out, and I live in Kansas City. I don't live anywhere rural at all. I live in, I don't think it's the biggest city in Kansas since it's split between Kansas and Missouri, but it's a city. It's not at all like In Cold Blood, but it just was close to home, and it freaks me out. And like, I am somebody who, my in-laws are from a farm. They live on a farm, and like wide open spaces stress me out. You guys, I know I'm not like, I'm a rarity, but like wide open spaces are not calming to me. They are very stressful to me. And like this book just made that 1,000 times worse because they're in the middle of nowhere and somebody just comes and kills them. And it honestly scared me. The other book that I'm going to say is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. So this is probably like my favorite thriller of all time. And it didn't like scare me like In Cold Blood did, but it like stressed me out. And so this book is about a couple who appears to be perfect, but there's more going on behind closed doors. And just like the controlling nature and the stress and the like tension in the book is so good that like it had me stressed out, and like it made me very grateful for like my normal suburban life. And so both of those books, like in different ways, but they both truthfully scared me. I didn't read either this year, but it's kind of rare for a book to actually scare me. So those are my answers. Next is Heating Up, a book that was seriously steamy. So I don't intentionally read steamy books. I don't love a lot of steam in my books. That's just personal preference. I don't see anything wrong with them if you want to read them. But for me, it's not my taste. However, I have fallen in love with Denise Williams this year. And so my favorite was The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. So this is about this woman who she is plus size, but so like body positive, does not care. She has to test out this app. And so she meets this personal trainer through this app, and they have a friendship that turns into more. But I just loved her. I loved the body positivity. I loved the whole idea of it, because there's also like one of her coworkers is testing out like a very diet culture-y app. And so the juxtaposition of that was really good. But I would have liked it more if it was a little less steamy. So that is where I'm at. That one, I think most of the steam happens after like the relationship is established. So it didn't bother me quite as much, but like it wasn't just lust for lust's sake, but still I wish it was less steamy. Next is number 4, Rained Out, a book that you were anticipating, but you were let down immensely. So I'm going to say Tell Me the Truth by Kirsten Moglen. This was my first book by her, and I've heard nothing but praise. Well, I had heard nothing but praise. And so she writes short thrillers, like under 300 pages. I've heard really good things. Now looking back, I really only have heard good things about the arrangement, and other books of hers have been getting a little bit more negative feedback. And this one was just terrible, you guys. I gave it, I think, 2.5 stars. This is like 85% of the book is just this woman trying to prove that her husband's cheating on her, and like no thrillery things happen until like the one confrontation scene, and it was just terrible. And I was so excited to read her because, like I said, I've heard a lot of good things, and it was like short thrillers. Those are really great, especially for like the summertime. You just pick one up and like plow through it, and it was not good. So I would say that is my biggest disappointment. Number 5, Vacay Mode. So a book that features the vacation. So I don't know about this one. Like, I could have picked a bunch of beach reads that I've read this year, and those are all good. I also really liked Season for Second Chances by Jenny Bayless. That is a book about a woman who, she's like empty nester. Everybody's kind of like moved on without her. And so she goes to take care of this little cottage. And it's a season for second chances. She gets a second chance at romance and just a second chance to like reinvent herself in this really cute little quaint community. But I didn't want to say that. So I said The Final Hunt by Audrey Cole. And this is about, because I like this book the most, this is about a woman whose husband is like out on a expedition with a friend. He's hiking somewhere in the mountains and supposedly goes missing, presumably eaten by wolves or whatever. And she's like, I don't know. And so she starts uncovering things that shows that he may be a notorious serial killer called the Teacher Killer. And so she goes on vacation, kind of. I mean, it's kind of a stretch. But she goes to try to, like, to the wilderness where he was. I want to say it was Alaska, but I maybe just made that up. And she goes and, like, tries to hunt him down because she does not believe he's dead. And so I just loved her. Like, I loved how she just took matters into her own hands, and like the confrontation scene in this book is really good, and I loved it. So it's a vacation because he went on vacation to do the hunting thing, and then she went on vacation. She kind of dropped her life to go like hunt him down. So I really liked that book. Number 6, Roadtrip, a book that's all about a road trip. So this is not one of my favorite tropes really at all. I don't read it very often. And so I think the only book I've read this year that features this trope is The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. And I'm the unpopular opinion here. There's just something about Beth O'Leary that her and I do not jive well. So I didn't love this book. But this is about 2 exes that end up having a road trip together because their cars broke down. They're both on the way to a wedding. And so we're told, like, then and now. We get to watch their relationship develop in the then times, and then now have all the hijinks and the awkwardness in the present day. And there's a lot of seriousness in this book that I really wanted to, like, care about, and her feelings are very valid, but I just, like, could not connect to the characters, and I didn't, like, there's a lot of miscommunication in this, and that's my least favorite thing, like, in romance books, is when it's just because they won't talk to each other. So I don't know. Like I said, I know I'm the unpopular opinion on Beth O'Leary books, but I didn't like it, and I think this is the only road trip book I read. Next is Amusement Park, a book that felt like a roller coaster. So I read A Mother's Goodbye by Kate Hewitt, and this one was so, like, emotional. And so this is about a woman who is having her 4th baby, maybe 5th, 6th, I don't know. She has more kids than she can take care of. Her husband is injured and doesn't work, but he's also just kind of like unmotivated, no real ambition. She's busting herself to like raise this family, but she's got teenagers and like kids all over the age spectrum. And they're just like barely keeping their head above water. And she knows she cannot have this next kid. And so she plans to give it up for adoption. And then we also get the story of this other woman who she's a lawyer, no real like romantic prospects, whatever. So she decides to adopt this baby. She's got more money than she knows what to do with, like more resources, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I don't want to say a whole lot about it, but the two women find friendship in unlikely circumstances. There's times where you're like, oh gosh, one needs to run from the other because they're not a good person. And then other times where you're like, oh my gosh, they are a good person. And it was just a lot of like emotional up and downs, as well as like, what is the right thing here? It was so good. I would highly recommend. Next is Ice Cream, a book that was deliciously sweet. So I've read a few of these this year, but I'm going to say Heard It in a Love Song by Tracy Garvis Graves, just because I am obsessed with Tracy Garvis Graves. I feel like she does not get nearly enough hype here on BookTube or really anywhere. And so Heard It in a Love Song, it came out, I think, last November, maybe. And it's so good. It's about this woman who was a musician. Like I think she was like played in bands and stuff. And then she decides to like settle down, I guess, and have a more stable career as a elementary school music teacher. So she meets this guy who's a dad of one of her kindergartners. I think it's a kindergartner. And they strike up a friendship, but it's also about the little girl and her relationship. But the guy is so sweet. He's like amicably divorced and co-parenting. She's divorced and not a great situation. And just the whole relationship, he's definitely cinnamon-rolly. I love single dads, and I just thought it was so sweet. So I would highly recommend you check out anything by Tracy Garvis Graves, but I love her. Next is Sunrises and Sunsets, a book that has a sunrise or sunset on the cover or similar colors. So I want to know too, are you guys more likely to see the sunrise or sunset? Because especially in the summer, it's like the days are so long. Do you see both? Do you not? I don't know. I love the sunrise. I'm a morning person, but I also am like normally getting kids to bed and all of that still at sunset. So I don't know. I feel like I see both most days, but I'm going to say Golden Girl by Ellen Hildebrand. So Ellen Hildebrand is another one of those summer authors that you just have to read her in the summer. She is almost all of her books take place on Nantucket, and so they're all really summery and they're all good. But Golden Girl is one that is unlike anything I've ever read. So this is about an author who is killed. I think her name is Vivi or something. She is killed, and she then is in like a limbo purgatory stage where she's looking down on her 3 kids maybe, and trying to like nudge their lives to be what she thinks should happen. And we're trying to figure out what happened to Vivi, like who killed her, how did she die? But that's definitely not the focus of the book. The focus is more so on her like coming to terms with the fact that she's dead and trying to influence her kids and her kids trying to move on and that kind of stuff. And I loved it. And then finally, Long Days, the longest book you've read this year. So unfortunately, the longest book I've read was Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. So this one has been on all sorts of prize lists, and it's very well touted in the like literary fiction community. However, you guys know literary fiction is just not for me, and especially this one is over 600 pages. It was not for me. So this one is about a female aviator who wants to circumnavigate the globe. So it's a historical fiction about this girl. And then also we get present day, a young woman who is cast to play her in the movie. So we find out like what happened to her the whole time. And you guys, it was just so long, so slow, so many things mentioned and so many characters. And I just couldn't get into it. It was too much for me. I read it all, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a big fan of literary fiction and you don't mind like a slower paced, hard hitting book about a female aviator. So Those are my answers to the Summer Lovin' book tag. Heather, thank you so much for creating this tag. I love me a seasonal tag, and this one is obviously new and fresh, and I'm loving all the answers that I'm seeing from everybody else. So if you've read any of these books, let me know. I will leave all the questions down below as well as Heather's video. So if you have a channel, please do this. If you like, I'll tag you. That's not one of the questions, but I tag everybody who's watching this who hasn't done it. And if you don't have a channel, leave me your answers down below because, like I said, I love these questions. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.